Hello everybody, welcome back to another video this week. Today we're going to take a quick look at Roman gladiators from way back when. The original sporting event that people loved, even though it was a bit of a violent and blood sport. It's not like wrestling as we see it today, of course, but it's not like what most people think. So Roman gladiators were a little bit different than what some people fantasize. Like, it wasn't battles to the death between two big men inside of an arena. I mean, they did fight inside coliseums and stuff, but it was mostly until whoever drew first blood or whoever submitted first. You know, because if you took a few hard hits from somebody's shield or you got decked in the head really hard, you could just call it quits. That's it. You're like, this guy's too strong for me, I'm done. Now, you didn't win the fight, so your payday would probably be pretty low, but you were allowed to walk away and just go fight another day. And these guys would only fight a couple of times per year. And if you were a gladiator, there was a high chance you were a slave at one point. That was really common. That's kind of where they found most of their fighters, especially in the early days of gladiators, is basically just, hey, we got done fighting a war. We got like a few thousand slaves sitting back here. Let's have some of them fight together, you know? And the slaves, believe it or not, you could earn your freedom this way too. It kind of depended on the rules of the time, you know, whose emperor you were under and stuff like that, but many of them could actually get their freedom by doing this. Now, you could willingly become a gladiator. You could just be like, man, I hate my day-to-day life right now. I need more excitement. And you could enroll in gladiator school and go learn how to fight and then just start doing this for the money and the fame and everything. Because if you look at it, gladiators back then, kind of like the rock stars that we have today. You know, this is how you became famous. It's how you became well known in your area. Only a handful of gladiators would kind of become known across the entire Roman Empire. Like, even though it was kind of infamous, you could be like Spartacus, the famous rebellion leader. But most of these guys had regional fame, and the people who knew them in their city really loved them. And you could make a lot of money off of this. I mean, you could also have lots of women, lots of fame, you know, all that stuff that comes with it, and you would get housing and everything, pretty much anything you wanted. You were famous in this Roman area if you won your fights and you put on a good show for the people. And now, so today we're going to look at a smaller, not so well-known Roman gladiator, Marcus Attilius, who is a very good example of you can become a gladiator whenever you want. But his case was a little bit different. So he had to pay off a debt to somebody. And since Roman gladiators made a ton of money if you could win your fights and put on a good show, it was the fastest way you could pay off a debt sometimes. Because your schooling and people taking care of you, your food and everything, your housing, was expensive. So sometimes your debt would continue to climb and it would always exceed what you made. But if you were a really good fighter and you didn't really need a whole lot of financial help from the person giving you your debt, you could get out of it pretty quickly. And that's kind of what he did, or at least what some people think he did, because there's not a whole lot of written history about him. At least from what I could find. Like, I spent hours trying to look for some stuff on this guy, and it didn't really... I got a lot of dead ends on him. At least I couldn't find much. If you guys have any extra information, let me know. But here's what I know. From what we know, Marcus only had 2 gladiatorial fights, and that was it. I tried finding more, I could not, but he ended up going into gladiator school, learning everything he could, and then had 2 fights, and one of them being against Hilarious. Now, Romans, when they had gladiators, tried to give them equal skilled fighters onto the battlefield. It was you know, like, think of skill-based matchmaking in today's Call of Duty. You're always going up against somebody who is as good as you, or maybe just slightly above you. But the difference didn't really matter too much. You guys were both pretty much equal. That's what they did here. They'd give you titles depending on when you started fighting. Now, Marcus's title, he was called a Tyro, which is basically a brand new fighter. He is just now starting. This is his first time going out. Now, he would go against Attilius, who was a fighter for the Emperor Nero at the time, who has won 13 fights in a row. Last I checked, this guy's record was 14-2 by the time he was at this point in his career. Like, he was a grade A fighter. He knew exactly what he was doing at this point. He spent probably about 4 years fighting. So he had his work cut out for him, and well, we don't know how the fight went out, but Marcus actually ended up beating this guy straight up in his fight, and would actually later go on to fight against Felix, a slave who was part of Gladiators run, and he's been there for a couple years too. He had 12 fights in a row that he had won, and well, Marcus would actually beat him too. Like I said, we don't really know how these fights went on, but Marcus would win his first 2 gladiator matches against seasoned vets. And well, Felix would actually get his freedom after this. His slave time would be done after his gladiator match with Marcus. And now, not much is known of Marcus after this. See, Marcus was just a regional kind of famous gladiator. He stayed in Pompeii and was just famous for fighting in the area. I mean, I don't really know if he stayed there after fighting. Like I said, I have no idea what he did for a living, what happened after these fights, how he died, or anything like that. But we do know about his existence because of the eruption of a volcano that covered Pompeii, which happened a few decades after his fights. So, as you guys know, Pompeii covered in volcanic ash. Well, the volcanic ash did a very good job at preserving a lot of that city. So we're able to find a lot of artifacts that we wouldn't have really known about beforehand. And, well, believe it or not, the ash preserved graffiti written on the wall about him. And so the graffiti depicted Gladius in his, it depicted Marcus with his Gladius long shield and his short shin protectors fighting in the arena. And it's kind of the only reason we know he existed. And a lot of people believe that because he won those 2 fights that he really shouldn't have. He was somewhat ex-military because of his skill, but we don't know much. There's not any written text about him from what I can find, and I would say it's safe to assume that after 2 fights he paid off his debt and left. But that's the story of Marcus. Bit of a short one today, because there's not really a whole lot known about some of these fighters, unless you're talking like Spartacus, who, well, the reason why he has such a long story is because of his rebellion a little bit. But if you guys like this video, leave a like. If you have suggestions for other gladiators or some type of ancient fighting or whatever you want me to look at, I will definitely give it a shot. I would love to look at some of this stuff. So I do find a lot of this interesting. So leave a comment down below on what you want me to look at. And make sure you guys subscribe for more weekly videos like this. And I will see you guys in my next video. Peace.